Hi guys, Dave in Texas, and what you're looking at is my chicken backer. Okay, I'm going to do a before and after on this. I'm going to do it before and after on this guitar. So I'm going to strip it down to it's just wood left on it, all electrics, all hardware off of it, and I'm going to do a repair on the back. And if you've not seen me on Facebook, here's what's going on with it. Hang in there. This got all scratched up in a joint in Houston when somebody tried to steal it and ended up dropping it and kicking it across the parking lot. Okay, case flew open and out it came. And what you can't see are the deep dents, I think. Well, maybe you can. Yeah, a few you can. That's going to be the toughest to get out of there. The scratches, no big deal. I'm going to take a heat gun, shoot that poly off there, get it down with a sander, get it down to bare wood, then build it back up again. Not that hard of a job, okay? It's just those dents are much harder. I don't think the sanding will get those down far enough to disappear. It's not all of them, but I'll get it down where it looks decent again, okay? So it's going to be a long project, so hang in there while I work on this, and I'll show you how it's done. To remove a finish on one of these guitars, it's made out has poly finish on it. You've got to have a nice heat gun and do it the right way, otherwise you end up screwing it up and totally messing it up. And sanding on poly just turns it into goo and won't work, okay? You'd be out there for days trying to get that crud off there if you try to sand it off. So hang in there, we're going to set this guitar up, strip it down, remove everything off of it, including the tuners, so there's no damage done to it from the heat. And get back at you and show you what we're going to do with the heat gun and with a putty knife. Okay, so hang in there, guys. Okay, guys, as you can see, I stripped the body, right? Nothing left on it, metal. Okay, I cleaned it, got all that goo off it, an extra crud in there in case it decides to flame up or melt from the heat. This is just old polish, okay? And also, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and put some linseed oil on the neck, the fretboard, just in case it's overly dry. It should help protect the fretboard a little bit, but I'm not sure. I've never done this before like that, but common sense tells me that since it's dry already, I should go ahead and put this on there. So, hang in there while I set this thing up. Okay, guys, something I need to make you aware of that I won't be covering in the video because it's just plain boring and it takes too long, is that this poly on these guitars drips over the binding. Okay, you can see it front and back, okay? And that's a little bit of a problem, right? So what you have when you're pulling that, when you're pushing that painter's knife, right, up to the edge with that heat, it could just pull it right off the edge of that, binding, which you really don't want to do if you don't have to, okay? You want to leave the edge of the sides alone, okay? Now, it's extra work, but it could save you working a long time. But take a nice tip file like this one. Come on, file. Focus in there. It's not real sharp, but it does have a nice point to it. You couldn't stab yourself with it, but it's nice and pointy and scratchy. And go around the exact edge of this and put a nice score line right along the edge of that binding on the inside, okay? Deep enough to cut through the poly, not enough to show white into the wood, but you're going to sand it anyway, so it shouldn't make that much difference, right? And what it could do and help you is this. When you're pulling that knife across, right, it hits that score line and pops out and it's done. It doesn't continue to pull over, the edge of that guitar over the binding. And so it stops right at the binding where you want it to stop, okay? Just a little tip to give you. I've never seen it on YouTube mentioned before, but it is handy to know that in case you come across something like this, okay? Working with poly finish and back binding like this, okay? So hang in there. We're going to start the heat gun up and start pushing that poly off this guitar, okay? And what we're going to do is go this direction, right? Yep. Heat gun's going to be going just like this, the knife right behind it, okay? So hang in there. Okay guys, back to it. Here's the tools I'll be using to get this paint off here. This is a Wagner Pro heat gun, right? 1200 watts on this thing. It's enough to burn it. So what I'll be doing is taking it back and forth gently on low heat at first to get that paint, that poly to start moving, right? And one thing I want to make sure and clear is that the way I was taught, you use a solid scraper. You don't use one of those thin putty-like scrapers, because if you run into some resistance pulling on that poly, pushing on it, and that thin one decides to pop up, right? Scrape it on a pop, right? Because it's so thin and it's heated. That poly could come back on you, right? Or go anywhere on your work table, on the floor, wherever. So I'm using a thick painter's knife. It's a new one I bought, right? And as you see, I've got wet towels, okay? Now the wet towels, for one thing, keep from scorching this wood underneath the poly, number one. Now the towels are wet to keep from scorching the wood underneath the poly. In case I get to a hot spot, I can always put it on there and get the heat down real quick. But mainly is I'll be coming towards the heel of this neck, and I'll wrap this wet towel around the edge of it like that, so that none of the heat hits it as I go up to this area to remove this part of the poly, okay? So very simple, just kind of mask it off with a wet towel. That way you don't have any problems by, having that fall on your back of your neck and cause you more problems to solve later, okay? So hang in there, guys. We'll be back in a second when we start removing this poly finish, this black paint, right? Okay, so here we are. It's coming up pretty readily. Basically, you put the heat to it and just, peel the paint up, okay? And I'm really curious to know what kind of wood that is underneath there. It looks like some type of grain. I don't really recognize it that well. But let's see if they actually used one piece of wood on the back or the body that they said they did. And it's going to take quite a while getting all this off, okay? And you just got to sit there and just gently scrape it, so it finally comes off. And of course, the first part comes off as the poly. It flakes off, and this little rolled up piece of flake that you can see right there. See that? Then of course the paint comes off with the heat, and does a much better job than trying to sand it off, because the poly just turns to goo. It just melts. Okay. And again, the trick is not to hold the heat gun in the one spot at any good time. Just move it around so you don't scorch the wood, especially when it's been exposed. You don't get back over that. You're close to that, scorch it. Okay. Of course, again, we're going to sand it to get these dents out up here. Still don't think you can see them, but there's plenty of dents from the big rocks it hit. Anyway, hang in there, guys. I'll show you, a little piece by piece as it goes along, as I, pull up bigger sections of it. So let's take a look at it and see how it goes. Okay, so hang in there. Okay, and as you can see, this is only about 5 minutes worth of work with that heat gun and getting it up. A lot of, dry spots there, but the hot gets to that wood. You don't want to scorch it. Of course, we'll sand it anyway. But the point is, you want a nice, smooth finish, so you can go back over and sand it nice and smooth. And it does get awful hot. Okay. But I think the main thing is that the tip of the blade is you're actually scraping it, and the heat gun's hitting the edge right about here of the blade. It helps heat it up and causes it to go through that poly and that paint just readily. Okay, so about 30-40 minutes worth of work on this thing. We should have it cleaned up and almost ready to sand, but I want to take my time on this, make sure I get all the edges done right and I don't overdo the binding. Okay, so we're going to take it nice, slow and easy and do it the right way and not overheat this thing. Okay, let it cool, let it heat, let it cool and heat. Make sure we don't get any of the bindings to snap off from the heat. So any questions, give me a holler, but stay tuned, guys, because I'll be back with this thing completely finished here in a little bit, or more of it, show you more of how it's going with this thing. Okay, so hang in there. Okay, there's 5 minutes worth of work, and it's coming along readily. Of course, that's awful hot right now, but the point is, it also heats the blade of this thing as I'm blowing that heat down, because the heat gun is pointing right at that hole, okay, in this painter's tool. So he gets in there, gets on the blade, heats the blade up, and it passes just smoothly right through, okay? Goes right through that paint and that poly just readily, as compared to making soup and goo out of it with a sander. So, hang in there, guys. Piece by piece, I'll show you how it goes, and let you know when we get down to the point where it's time to stop and get the sander out and start smoothing this thing out. So, hang in there. Okay, guys, what I'm going to do now is go over this with a sander. Got a little high spots here. Get nice and smooth all around. Nothing burred up or anything like that, you know, on this thing. So, I've got a little hand sandwich, Ryobi. I've got 440 grit sandpaper on this thing, so it doesn't do a lot, but just basically takes the very top layer off, and don't push real hard. Just let the weight of it kind of glide across the wood. And I'll run it past 2 or 3 times and show you the results, okay? So hang in there. Okay, now I got the wood down to its bare grain. I can't really tell what type of wood this is, but I got a spot here, I went overheated it, that won't be a problem. I'll just go ahead and just, you know, do a cover coat of this thing and cover it up and go from there, okay? So, next thing to do is going to be a primer coat, right? A little gray coat, and I'll do a black coat, spray coat, and then of course do some sanding, and then the poly and sanding and poly and sanding, and then go from there. Okay, and next time you see it, it'll be finished, and I hope you like it. But it's time to set it aside and work on some other stuff that's coming in the shop, and be sure to check in later to see the finished chicken backer 12 string. Any questions, guys? I'm Dave in Texas. Bye.